Welcome everyone to this workshop, Python Basics. I'm your instructor, Uldis Bojārs. Here are my assistants, Sergei and Katrina. Sergei will help you mostly here to those who attend the workshop in person, and Katrina will help you on Zoom. So if you are on Zoom and need any assistance, then shout out to her. Okay, anything you want to say?
Surely ask any of the questions in the chat. I'll try to answer. And if they are more global kind of questions, I'll also speak up to the lecturer to also clarify to the group.
Okay, thanks a lot. And thanks, let's get started then. And indeed, the workshop is at quite a fast pace because we have a lot to cover, which means don't hesitate if you are stuck, then ask questions right away. Don't wait half an hour to solve it by yourself first. Maybe there is a little things that we can say that will help you move forward. Okay, thank you. And so to start the workshop, we will use a service called Google Colab. That is a service where you can see Python program code like a notebook, where you write something and then this notebook, Google Colab or Jupyter Notebook technology underneath it, replies you with the result of executing the program code that you entered. But okay, to get started, first you have this document that's called Preparing for Workshops. And in this document, again, you see the names of assistants, just if you need to find them. And then further on, there are links to Welcome to Colab page. So please open that. And you will also need this link here, a GitHub link, where we have all the course materials. So the instructions how to get working are first open Google Colab. Let me see. Yes, by following this link, welcome to Colab. I see that everyone is pressing the link. Thank you. That's great. And you will end up at a screen like this, welcome to Colab. But to work with Colab, you also need this notebook that we will be using. So the notebook for introduction to Python. And the way how to get that notebook, well, I already have it somewhere here, but I will show you how to get started from scratch. You will need to open the other link here, so the GitHub link, BSSDH 2024 Beginners, and on this page, click the Notebooks folder. And in the Notebooks folder, there are a number of files with extension IPyNotebook, so Jupyter or IPython notebook. The file that you need is called day1 Python introduction.ipynotebook. Click on it, and you will see a non-editable version of this notebook. But to get it working in Google Colab, you need to download this file. So click the download icon here, download raw file. And once you have downloaded the file, you need to upload it to Google Colab. The instructions for doing that are also here in the notebook itself. So it says open this Jupyter notebook on GitHub, download the notebook on your computer, and then in Google Colab, choose the Upload tab. I will show you how to do that as well. So let's open Google Colab page and click Upload. And then just drag and drop the file, Python introduction, that you downloaded. drag and drop it into this space here. And as soon as you have done that, you will get this Google Colab notebook where you will be able to work and to follow along this workshop. This initial setup you may have some questions, so if you have questions, just ask for Sergei's help or online for Katrina's help, and you can, of course, ask me as well. So let's get this step done. Make sure that you have Day 1 Python Introduction Notebook opened in Google Colab and that you can scroll it and follow the further instructions from me. One thing, to use Google Colab, you need to have a Google account. So that was written in preparing for workshops document, but just in case, I remind you, you need a Google account. If you don't, then there is an option to quickly create this account, or you can use a local installation of Jupyter notebooks. So maybe raise your hands who are using Google Colab. Everyone, almost, who's using Google Colab. And who's using something else, local installation of Python? Okay, so everyone's on Google Colab. Okay, that will make it easier to follow along. At this stage, please raise your hand if you have some issues running Google Colab. Okay, I will quickly solve this. We are solving some problems to get started, and I'll help a bit more. If anyone has questions getting started, then please ask away. That also applies to those of you who are participating online via Zoom. But since the majority have got Google Colab working, let me show you how to do the first things in exploring this notebook. So the notebook consists of cells, and these cells are there for you to execute, which means you can run Python programs that appear in these notebook cells. So let's scroll a bit further down this notebook, and you will see Hello World section. This Hello World section just tests that you can run this Google Colab or this Jupyter notebook. So every gray area here is a separate cell that consists of some commands, so some Python commands, and you can execute them by clicking this triangle sign. So this means run. You could also press Ctrl-Enter, that will achieve the same result. So you click run, and the computer says hello world. Why does it say that? It's because you just executed your first Python command, print. So print, and in parentheses you gave it parameters, text hello world. So check that you can load this Google Colab and that you can execute this hello world message. Then the next thing to do is to create your own commands that you give to Python. For that, click inside this cell where you have a print command and write something else. Hello workshop, for example. It's up to you what text to write, as long as it's inside parentheses and inside quotes, single quotes or double quotes. Once you have written it, you can execute it by pressing triangle, run command, and as you can see, here is the output of this command. So your first Python command executed. So now you can order the computer around, and it will do what you tell it to do. Well, that's the objective of this lecture or this workshop, the first part of the workshop, to get you up to speed with Python. You can also, you will meet situations when there will be some errors. So, for example, here, this command is not well formed because you have opening quotes, but you don't have the closing quotes after this text. And let's see what happens. If we run Python, if we run this cell, this triangle turns red, and we get so-called exception traceback. And this exception, it's nothing to fear from. It is there to help you. So it shows you the command, it shows you where Python thinks there is a mistake, and it tells you some hopefully helpful information about that problem. And the error here is that we are missing the closing double quote. When we fix that, it's executed and Python prints text not good. So has everyone got that far? If anyone has still issues getting up to speed with Google Colab or something else, raise your hand so we know that you need some help. Everyone's fine, that's great. Let's move on then. So Python is a popular language to learn, both for digital humanities and for programming in general. And there is even a web comic about the ease of learning Python, which goes like this: you're flying, how that's possible? And the guy flying answers Python. I just typed import anti-gravity, and well, I'm flying. And Python indeed is, it's called sometimes batteries included, in that there are many libraries which you can just import. You write import and library name, and suddenly you have more functionality available to you. You can do new things with Python. And so let's continue with a short introduction to Python. So Python was created in early 1990s by a programmer called Guido van Rossum, who was later working at Dropbox at Google. Here is also a link to Python language reference in case if you need to access some documentation. So we can go to Python documentation and read about Python or take Python tutorial here. That's a link that you can explore on your own later on. And why Python? So Python is a great programming language to learn because it is, as you will see later, it is quite readable, at least if we compare it to other programming languages. So every command is on a separate line and so on. Python is also often called a glue language, which means that there can be different services that you want to access. For example, do some recognition of scanned text and so on. These services may be written in other languages, but Python kind of lets you glue them together. You can call this character recognition from scanned text. You can do some natural language processing and so on. Python is widely used, starting from startups to large companies such as Facebook and Google, where Python is one of the official languages at Google. Python is also a popular programming language for the reasons that I mentioned above. And if you look at a survey of questions on the site called Stack Overflow, of questions about different programming languages, you can see that Python is at the upper part of the chart. So it's a popular language that people ask questions about. Now, maybe that shows that Python is a difficult language. I don't know. That's for you to judge, too. And there is a programming language index called TIOBE language index. And it also ranks programming languages. And you can see the result for Python, that Python is a programming language #1 according to this index. And it has been programming language #1 for quite some time now. It's followed by more complex programming languages such as C++ and C. And I already mentioned different services available to Python. So Python is also often called batteries included programming language for the reason of these services, different services being included in Python itself. So if you need to do a web request to retrieve some content from the web, you can do that. If you need to process this text, you can do that, and so on. So there are many services available in Python. Now, what is programming? Well, programming is giving instructions or algorithms to the computer with the intention for the computer to execute these instructions. So you can think of boiling an egg, and if you look deeper into this task, you will see that there is an algorithm that you need to pour some water to boil the water and so on until you get a boiled egg. So there are instructions that you could give to someone who needs to boil an egg, and they can follow those instructions and accomplish this task. So computers also, they need to be told what to do. And you could say that computers are stupid because they only do what they are told to. But, well, if it works, then maybe it's not stupid. So in this workshop, we also will look at making programs, making them work, and then there are next steps, making them right and making them fast. But in real life, even building a prototype, making it work at all, is already a big accomplishment in that you can suddenly do magic, you can do something you couldn't do before with Python. Now, like I mentioned before, error messages are nothing to be afraid of. They are there to help, to show you what needs fixing. And here is another Python cell. So you will notice that this Jupyter notebook or this Google Colab notebook consists of text cells like this, what is programming, where the text is actually written like this. So, for example, these two hash signs mean that that is a heading. And code and other type of cells are Python code blocks. So in these code blocks, you can execute some Python commands. And it is also good to document what your program does. For that, we use comments. And Python comments start with this hash sign. So whenever you need to write some comments, you write the hash sign, some comments here, and Python will know that it doesn't need to execute this code, that it's just a comment for other people or for yourself to read later on. And in Python, so Python is so-called interpreted language in that it executes commands as they come in. So you can feed it commands in small portions, like this notebook cells. So, as you saw before, we fed Python commands to print some text. So this is, you could say, an empty Python code cell because it does nothing. It just has some comments. So I will add another print command here and execute this cell. You will see that its output, it just prints what you told it to. So the computer follows our instructions. Now you already got this far, so everyone's using Google Colab. That is great. But I will briefly mention other types of installations, how you can get Python on your computer and how you can get running with Python. So one option is Google Colab, which is what you are doing. There is another option to go to Python website and download Python on your computer. Or you can install a package called Anaconda, which contains Python, but it includes many additional libraries for text processing, for machine learning, and so on. And there are two ways how you can run Python, two main ways. One is a dialog, like in this Google Colab notebook. Google Colab notebook just has code cells that you can execute, and the result is printed below the cell. There is another option which we will not be using in this workshop, but it's good to know that you can, once you have already got your algorithm working, your prototype working, for example, in Google Colab, you can package your program as a standalone program, which means it will be a separate Python file that can be executed all together without the need to click this run button all the time. In this workshop, we will use Google Colab, which sometimes these notebooks are called Jupyter notebooks. So the next section is Jupyter Basics, which tells you just a bit about using these Jupyter notebooks or Google Colab notebooks. But let me just ask, does anyone need help at this point? Is something not working or something unclear? Let us know right away. Everyone's fine. That is great. You need to be able to navigate these Google Colab notebooks in order to do something in them. These notebooks can contain cells that contain either Python code or specially formatted text, like this cell here. The text formatting used here is called Markdown, so it's Markdown syntax. There are some shortcuts that you can use both in Google Colab and local Jupyter Notebook installation. For example, you can use Control-Enter or this triangle button to run program code. And there are some other commands for creating a cell, a new cell, above or below the current notebook cell. Those are called Escape A, so you click Escape button and A to create a new cell above the current cell. Let me see. I will click Escape A, and you see that a new code cell has appeared here. And I can execute it using Control-Enter or a triangle button. These are just some commands that you can use in this Google Colab. And now it's task for you. Add a new Jupyter cell. You can do that and create a new cell below this comment cell here. So just try to get familiar with Google Colab. And two ways how you can create a new notebook cell below the current cell is either use Escape B button, Escape button and B button, or You don't necessarily have to click Escape B. You can also just go to the bottom of this cell, and there appear two buttons on the screen, plus code and plus text. We want to create a new code cell, so press plus code. And Google Colab already tells you start coding. So please create a new cell, enter some commands, some Python commands, and press a triangle button or Control Enter to execute this cell. Let's get this part done, and then we can move to working with Python itself. So what you need to be able to do at this point is create new Google Colab cells, new notebook entries, and you have to be able to execute these cells. And if you get any error messages, let us know, and we will try to help you. So create a new cell and print some text. Has everyone done that, or are you still trying to get this task done? Done. Okay, good. Again, if you need help is just a raised hand away. Okay, and if you get an error message, you can ask us, or of course you can also just use the search engine to ask for help on this error message. Now let's move forward, and this is a plan for the Python introduction part of today's workshop. So there are quite many things that we need to cover, but those are necessary in order to get you up to speed with Python. A good thing is that this notebook will be available later on as well. So if there is something where you need more time to get familiar with some part of this notebook, you will be able to do that on your own as well. So just go through this notebook, execute the commands in it, modify these commands. So do experiment with this notebook. Change the commands, see what changes, and do things on your own as well. But so the topics that we will look at include first, how to define values in Python, how to write text values, numeric values, and so on. Then how to assign these values names, so basically how to work with variables in Python, how to get user input, so how to ask the user for to enter some text or some value, arithmetic operations, so what we can do with numeric values. Then we will look at text strings, so working with text values. Then we will have a quick detour to ChatGPT, because who needs to program anymore? ChatGPT will do that for you, right? Well, not really, but it can be helpful, so we will look at it. Then we will look at more advanced Python data structures called lists, dictionaries, and tuples. Those are useful data structures to know. We'll look at program flow control, which lets you control how the program is executed, so to choose between executing different parts of the program. For example, if you have a program to convert degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, you may also add a flow control command if that shows you some text if the temperature is too high, for example, or too low. We will look at functions which let you package some functionality and give it a name. We will look at this batteries included part of Python. We will look at libraries. And finally, it's also important for you to be able to save your work. So we will look at working with files. Well, that's a lot, but that's why we should get ahead, and let's look at Python values. So different values that you can work with. Python lets you work with different types of data. So this data can be integer numbers, like 42, and I will go through all these cells and execute them. And to follow along, please execute these Jupyter Notebook or Google Colab cells yourself as well. So let's just go through all the cells and execute them. What Google Colab will do, it will show you the value. If we are talking about values, when we execute a Google Colab cell, it will show you back the value that you gave it. So here we enter the number 42, and Google Colab will reply, oh, well, you just gave me a number 42. I will print that out. So Google Colab prints 42. In Python, we can also use functions. We will talk about functions later on, but you already met a function called print. So print is a function to print some value given to it. And here is another function called type. And this function just lets you know what is the type of the value that you gave to this function. Basically, here I want to demonstrate that Python has integer values. And if we ask for the type, if we just write type and in brackets 42, then in parentheses 42, then Python will print us the type of this value. It's an integer value. By the way, you can also ask for help in Python. So you can literally write function help, and in a parenthesis, enter the things that you need help about. Let's say that we are interested in command print. We can write help and in parenthesis print, and Python will give us helpful help message about the print command. So we used this syntax print, and then in parenthesis we gave the print command a value to print. Actually, there are other parameters that you can give to the print command, and you can learn about these parameters by asking Python for help. But for now, we will just write print and value. Now, Python also has so-called floating point values or decimal numbers. For example, here are some first digits of the constant pi. And if we ask Python for type of this value, Google Colab tells us it's float. Then you already saw that you can specify text values, so some text enclosed in single or double quotes, and Python will understand, okay, that is some text. If we ask for type of this value, we will get back str, which is short for string, so text string. Here I'm just demonstrating the different kinds of values that Python can work with. You can also use single quotes for text strings, or you can have a multi-line text string if you start it with 3 quotes and end it with 3 quotes. For example, we can execute a print command and give it this long string consisting of multiple lines. Let's execute this cell, and you see that Python prints, as instructed, Python prints this text string consisting of multiple lines. So a string doesn't have to be just one line, it can be many lines. And then the last value value type to cover before we move on to variables is Boolean values. So Boolean values are true or false. and they will be useful later on when we talk about flow control. So we will be changing the way how our program is executed based on the value of some condition given to this program. So if some value is true, execute one part of the program. If some value is false, execute another part of the program. So these are just constants: true, false, and if we ask for type of the constant true, we see that it's Boolean value. We can combine these Boolean values. For example, we can use command AND, which will return true only if both parts of this command, so the value before the AND and the value after the AND, if both are true. So basically we are asking Python, tell us if both values are true. And in this case, true and false will mean the value of this operation is false. And if we ask if both parts are true now, then Python will say yes, both parts of the AND command, the constant before it and the constant after it, are true. Are there any questions for now? Okay, no questions, really. I expected to have some, but whenever you have questions, go ahead. And also that applies to Zoom. If you have any questions, need any help, then ask Katrina for help. So the next thing to learn, so we learned about values. These are basic building block of Python programs. The next building block is variables. And we can think of variables as boxes where we can store values. So we have a box, we put in some value, and we write a name on this box. It's the name of this variable. So, for example, we can create a variable called my name, and we use the equal sign to assign some value, to put some value into this box, to assign some value to the my name variable. And when you define the variable, it will be available in the next code cells in this Google Colab notebook. So you can define the variable in one cell and then use this variable in another cell to print the value of the my name variable. And again, please follow this notebook by executing all the steps all the cells that are in this notebook. So just press triangle sign or press Ctrl Enter, whichever works for you. And when you have assigned a value to this my name variable, it is accessible in your program in further Google Colab cells. For example, in this cell we will print the value of the my name variable, print my name, and Python says, yeah, I know, my name contains the value Uldis. In Python, as in many other programming languages, the uppercase letters or lowercase letters matters. For example, if you will try to execute a command print with capital letter P, Python will give you an error saying name print is not defined. That's because the uppercase, lowercase matters, and you have to write print with a lowercase starting letter. So just don't get bit by this feature that it matters if you write some command or variable name in uppercase or lowercase letters. Then let's define some more variables. So let's define variable y, year 2024, variable's answer to be 42, and variable mypi, which will be some first digits of the constant pi. And what else? And let's define a Boolean variable, so it will be true or false. And let's say that the variable name is hot, and the value is true. Now we have defined a number of variables, and they will be available in our program, and we will look at the type of these variables, type of values in these variables, and we will print some of these values as well. Now, in Google Colab, in this sidebar on the left-hand side, you have some icons, including an icon that says variables. You can click that icon, and it will, Google Colab will show you what variables you have defined so far. So you can see that you have 5 different variables defined here: is hot, my pi, my name, the answer, and why. And that these variables have different types. So is hot is Boolean, my pi is floating point or decimal number, my name is a string, and the rest of the variables, the answer and why, are integers. So Google Colab helps you see what variables are defined to your program, what variables you can use later on in your program. Let us see, we have executed cells until this one, so is hot equals true. And now let's look at types and values of these variables. So if you call a function called type and give it a variable name, it will return you the type of this variable, which is integer. We can also look at type of other variables. So my pi has a floating point or decimal number. Is hot is Boolean. And if we print the value of the is hot variable, then we see that currently this variable contains value true. But we can also change the value of a variable. So it's if we have defined a variable to contain some value, we can redefine this variable, so we can give it a new value. For example, maybe we decided that it's not that hot anyway, so let's change the value of the is hot variable to false. To do that, we use the equal sign again, the assignment command, and is hot is now false. Let's execute the command print. Print is hot, and the value is indeed false. So that's kind of a crash course on Python variables. Variables can store values, which you can use later on. So you can refer to this variable by its name. Names for Python variables can be almost anything, but there are some so-called reserved keywords which you cannot use as variable names. And you can ask for help on keywords to get a list of keywords that you cannot use as variable names. Mainly those are Python commands like try, while, false, true, and so on. And I already showed you how to get help about some of these commands. Any questions so far?
Can you show again where did you trace the variables, the list of variables?
Where did I see the list of variables?
Yes.
Okay, it's this X, and you click X, and it will give you the list of variables. Okay, and you also had a question.
Yeah, so if we define the variable at first and then later in the code we just do it again with a different outcome, then it just cancels out the first step when we defined it?
Yes, if you define a variable and then overwrite it with another value, then the value gets overwritten. The variable will contain now the new value.
So
Yes.
you don't have to go back to the first one if you want to change it.
No. You don't have to go back in the notebook to change it. You just overwrite it whenever you need to. For example, let me see what variables we have. So let's change the year variable. So we have variable y, which is the year, and let's define a new value, 2025. Let's assign this value to a variable. And now, if we print the value of this variable, then you will see that it's 2025. So whenever you need to give new value to the variable, you just do that. Okay.
Also, question, how do you differ when do you write with a capital letter and when not? Because if you would show us the values one more time, you see some are with capital letters, but for example, my name is with the small letters.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference and when do you use?
Okay, so the question is, when do we use capital letters or lowercase letters in variable names? And that will apply also to function names later on. So basically, when do we use capital letters? When do we use lowercase letters in Python? That is up to you. Basically, the main question is, what is more readable? You can use lowercase or uppercase letters as long as you use the same name later on when you need to refer to this variable. So it doesn't matter if it's capital letters or not. It matters for Python commands because command print is written with the lowercase letters. But for the variables that you define yourself, you could even write is hot with all capital letters, for example. Or you could write my name as my name, like this.
And is there a difference whether you use or do not use spaces between? Like, for example, here between Y and 2025 equals, and there's, I think that there's space, right?
Yes.
And sometimes there is no space.
So the question is, when do you use spaces? First thing, if we talk about variable names, then you cannot use spaces in variable names because it should be all one string. So I will get back to your question about this part, but just to say that you cannot write my name equals Uldis. That will not work. It has to be one string. If you need to separate my and name, you can use underscore. That's another option. But your question was, when do you use spaces in, for example, this assignment here, right? Python allows you, Python is flexible. It lets you use spaces or not use spaces based on what you decide. So you could write this shorter for assignment. You could write it like this as well. I use spaces for readability. So to make it more clear, to separate the variable name and the value, I put spaces around this assignment command. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. I will delete this cell. And the next task is getting user input. So sometimes your program needs to ask the user to give it some value. And for that, we will use the input command. So the way how the input command works is you call it like a function. So you write input, then in parentheses you give it a text to be shown to the user, so-called prompt, which prompts user to enter some value. And when you execute this function, input, it will return a text value. And since we know that it returns a text value, we can assign it to some variable. So there are two things happening here. We are calling the function called input to get user to enter some value, text value, and we assign the result of this input command to a variable called text. I will open again the list of variables here, and let's execute this cell. When we execute it, Jupyter Notebook or Google Colab asks you for input. So you can see that there appeared a window or a line which says the text that we gave to the input command, enter a number, and it asks me to enter a number. And I entered 1001. And you will notice that a new variable appeared in the list of variables called text. So it's a string value that contains text value 1001. We can look at it at this value from Google Colab as well. Yes?
I have a question about terminology. So text can contain also numbers. It's what was the other word for string doesn't contain numbers, but text can contain numbers.
No, the string and text, I use them as synonyms here. So it's, but that's a good question. Thank you. So about about numbers and text. What the input command does is it asks the user for a text value. So even though the value contains some digits, some numbers, it is at this point, that's important, for Python, it's text. So the type of the value entered is text, even if it looks like a number. And the way how you can see that is that Python puts these quotes around the text that we entered. So it's text, and if you want to work with this value as a number, for example, as an integer, you need to convert this entered value to an integer value. So that's something that needs to be understood, that every variable contains a value, and this value has a certain type. And the type of values that we get from the input function is text. If we want to work with these values like numbers, we need to convert them to integers. For that, we use a command called int. And now you see that when I execute this, you see that we have a variable called int value. Its type is integer, int, and its value is 1001. So that's something that might not be intuitive at first, that the numbers can also appear as text. So it's important to know if you're working with text or if you're working with numbers. Any questions? Any more questions? So we now how to get input from a user. And input is a function. We will look at functions later on, but basically a function packages some lines of Python code, Python program together and gives them a name. It's the same way how we give a name to some value and call it a variable. We can also give a name to a fragment of Python program. And function can be called many times. So you don't, so for example, the print command might do some semi-complex things, but we define this print command once, or Python defines this print command once, and then you can just call it by saying print, and in brackets give print some values. So a function may be called with one or more arguments. For example, the print function gets a value, an argument, that is the text to print. A function may do something. So, for example, print some text, and just a moment. And a function may return a value. For example, input function returns a value that the user entered. So you already know functions, or you have seen functions called print and function type. So, and we call functions by printing its name, and then in parentheses we give the function some arguments. And if a function returns a value, we can assign that value to a variable. Okay, any questions about this part?
If you have several arguments, how do you link them together just by spaces?
And a good question, thank you. If you have multiple arguments, how do you separate them? And you separate these arguments by commas. For example, a good example is a print command that can actually take a number of arguments. Hello, comma, my name, comma, 1, 2, 3. So in this case, the print command has 3 arguments, and they are separated by commas. And when I execute this command, it will say hello space Uldis space 1, 2, 3. So comma is the separator for these arguments. It's up to you if to use spaces here or not in the list of arguments. I use spaces everywhere to make the program more readable. So I use spaces in a list of arguments, and I use spaces when doing the assignment command. Okay, but now to check how you have understood the notebook so far, so the Jupyter notebook, here is a task for you. So your task is to ask for user's name and to print a greeting addressing the user by the name. So to do that, you will need to do the following things. Ask for user's name. I am writing Python comments here. And assign user input to a variable. So string value. And you will need to print a greeting. And that's it. So the task might seem complex at first, but it's not. Ask a user for a name so that you can enter some name, and print a greeting saying for example, hello, let's say hello Uldis. Uldis is the instructor of the other workshop, so we'll say hello to him. Okay, but in your case, you will put instead of Uldis here, you will put the name that a user entered. So the value of the input function. Okay, and let's give you 5 minutes to accomplish this task, and if you will need more time, you will let us know. So you should be able to write the code in this cell and to ask user to enter some value. That's great that you have questions. I hope that everyone who's on Zoom also resolved your questions if you had any. Let me quickly fill out this notebook cell as well. So what you needed was to ask a user for input. So I will write the command input. What's your name? Like that. So I will call the function input or give Python the command to ask a user for some value. And I will assign that value to a variable called text. And then I will do the print command, give it a parameter hello, so that's the start text, comma, and then the name of the variable. And if we want, we can give some further text, for example, exclamation mark.
I have a question.
Okay.
If you have several inputs, they can't be assigned to the text, so what do you do?
So the question is, if you have several inputs, they can't be assigned to the text, to a single variable, right? Can you give an example where you would have multiple texts?
Like, what's your name? What's your age? I don't know, whatever. To write a longer sentence, for example, there can be multiple inputs.
There can be multiple inputs. Okay, that's a good point. Let's try it. Let's ask for age.
You just assign actually any word, so it's not text, it's just anything.
It can be anything. It doesn't have to be text only. You can ask for input multiple times and assign these inputs to different variables.
Then why don't we assign just the name, not the text? Because text is very abstract.
I agree.
I thought that
Let's fix that.
it's some kind of a, I don't know, the function or something.
No, it's not. It's not. You
Just a
don't.
random word. Okay.
Yes, just a name that you chose for your variable. So it can be name, age, whatever describes the thing you are asking. Let's see if it works actually. We haven't tested it yet. So Uldis, what's your age? I don't know. Yes, let's say 50, whatever. And it says hello Uldis. It doesn't show my age yet. I will put it like this, comma age. Let's try again. All this 42, for example. And here is the result. So we ask for input multiple times and assign it to different variables. About spaces. All the time questions about spaces, I see. Aha, you don't like this space in here, right? Okay. With the print command, it automatically adds spaces around all its arguments. Well, there is a way that will not work well. You could give a special separator parameter and say that separator is nothing, basically an empty string, but the result will not be what you want. So the result will be everything will be together. That's not what we want. You found another option. Oh, you mean add exclamation mark already when you ask for input, like here? Well, that is a workaround. A user has to write more. Okay. That's nice that you are experimenting with different ways. So let me see. Let me see what we can. Okay, paldies. Let me see. You wanted this exclamation mark and did not want this space. What you could do is you could redefine the name variable. You can use a command plus, which combines two values together. So you can combine the name and the exclamation mark, and then the value will have this exclamation mark already. That's one. That's one of the ways. So as you can see, here there is no space. There is another option, and I will show you this, and then we will make a short break, just so that we have worked well, so can relax a bit. There is a thing called Python formatted strings. These are strings where you put F letter in front of them. And there you can use variable names inside the quotation marks. So you can write it like this. And we get two exclamation marks. Why is that? Well, because we added this exclamation mark to the name as well. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Let's add. And now, if we execute this new cell here, you will see that it took this text string. It's a special text string which starts with letter F, and it substituted these curly braces, and the name of the variable was substituted with the value of this variable. So that is another way how to print nicely hello Uldis. Does that answer your question? Okay, any more questions? So everyone got the input working, hopefully. If not, you still have some chance to ask for help. And now let's make a 10-minute break. So you worked well, now some relaxation. Okay, let's continue. So congratulations on your first Python program. There were some questions. So one, rather than question, one suggestion how to print this hello message. So there are a number of ways how you can print it. You can print it by separating these values, text string hello, and names of two variables, name and age. You can just give them as separate arguments to the print command, so separate them by commas. But as you already noticed, it gives you these spaces that you might not always want. So, for example, here, something. So we don't want this space here. One option is to write these special formatted strings, which start with letter F, and then you can write the names of variables inside these curly braces, and they will be replaced by the value. But that's maybe a bit, a slightly bit advanced topic, but you can, these F strings, but you can also just use the plus sign to combine together multiple string values. So name like this. So use a plus sign and it will combine hello, name, and exclamation mark together. In that case, spaces do not get added, so if you want a space after hello, comma, you have to add it yourself. So 3 ways how to do that: how to print with commas, with these special F strings, and using the plus sign. All the ways are okay, just depends on what you prefer. And there was another question on when to use code editors such as PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, and when to use Google Colab or Jupyter Notebooks. So that depends on the nature of works that you are doing. If you are doing such exploratory work where you want to do something with the data in kind of short commands, so you take data, you do something, check the result of your command, do something more. So if you want to, for example, explore a data set, Google Colab or Jupyter Notebooks are very well suited. But if you want to package your program in one file, which a user can execute, and the program does something more complex, you may want to use a code editor and write a standalone program. We don't cover that in this workshop, so. But both are valid, depends on what you do, Google Colab or code editor like Visual Studio Code. Okay, let's return to the topic of data types in Python. You already saw data of type integer, of type decimal numbers or floating point numbers, like 3.14. That's type float. You saw Boolean values. You saw string values. And now I'll briefly mention some other types of values in Python, which are more complex types, in that they contain other values inside them. So one of these types is list, a list which is written using square brackets. We will look at lists inside later on, but a list may contain a number of comma-separated values. So this list here contains 1, 2, 63, a text string aha, and so on. Then there is another complex type, complex meaning that it can contain other values inside it, called dictionary. A dictionary contains a pairs of key and value. So it lets you look things up if you know the key of some entry in the dictionary. Just like with real dictionaries, you have some word in mind that you want to look up in the dictionary, you look it up, you get back some value, for example, a definition of a word. Then there are also tuples, very similar to lists, but defined using what are those brackets? No, braces. Okay, these things, braces. Okay, and there is a set which is a collection of unique values. So a set is defined using curly braces, and if you were to define such a set, it will keep only unique values. So if I define a set like this, it will skip the double T and the double O, and only the unique values will remain. Here I just briefly list these types of data that Python has. We will look at them separately a bit later. If you have any more questions about Python variables and working with them, you could check out this Real Python link. So realpython.com has a number of valuable articles about Python, And here it looks at variables in the Python programming language. But let's now look what we can do with numbers in Python. And Python offers us different arithmetic operators, starting with the usual ones like addition, subtraction, so plus, minus, multiplication, and division. Then you can use 2 stars to raise a value to the power of whatever, to the power of 2 to get squares and so on. We have a modulus operation that gives us a remainder from dividing 2 values. There is the integer division operators that will give you just the integer value of the division, and you can use parentheses to define the order of executing some code. For example, here we will multiply 5 by 3. We will multiply 4 by 3. The order of execution of these operations is such that multiplication and division happens before adding or subtracting. Then we will add these 2 values, and we will subtract the result of dividing 6 by 2. And if I execute this cell, we get a result that it's 24. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, but if we use the integer division, then we will just get value 2. And remainder or modulo operator of dividing 5 by 2 will give us the remainder, which is 1. So 4 divided by 3 is 1. We can ask for type of results of these arithmetic operations, which typically would be integer values or floating point values. We can raise a number to some power, 5 to the power of 33. And Python used to have a limitation to how large a number can be. But now there's virtually no limitation, so we can have 11 to the power of 120, or a value so-called Google, which is 10 to the power of 100. So you can work in Python with big numbers too. Just to test how many zeros are in this number, we could write a small program. So what we can do is we can convert this number to a string. And when we have converted it to a string, note that there are now these quotation marks, quote before and after the value. And when we have the number as a string, we can count the number of currencies of digit 0, and we can see that the string contains 100 digits 0, which is what it should contain. Here's a link to more information about Python operators. But now let's switch to a more interesting data type, perhaps, which are strings. So Python allows you to store text values as strings or text strings. From Python's point of view, text strings are immutable, so they cannot be changed. But later, more on that later. And Python supports Unicode encoding, so you can represent different characters from various alphabets, including Latvian special characters, Chinese characters, and so on. And here are links to some operators and methods that you can use with text strings. But I will look at them, some of them below. So remember, we have a myname variable, and we can print the value of a text string variable. We can also ask for the length of text string. So len function will return 5 because, well, there are 5 letters in the value that this variable has. If I put my name in quotes, that's a different value. That's just a literal text value of this variable name. We can ask Python to give us individual characters of a text value by using square brackets and indicating the number of or index of the characters that we want to access in this string. These indexes are counted from 0. So if my name is Uldis, the letter with index 1 is L. We can also get characters, individual characters counting from the back of the string, and for that we use negative numbers. So character with index -1 will be the last character of a text string, which is S in this case. Now let's look at string slicing. After string slicing, I think we have a topic of ChatGPT, and then we will look at some more things we can do with text strings. So what slicing lets us do is it lets us access parts of text strings. And that can be valuable when you are working with larger texts like text corpora as well. So slicing is important to look at. And string slicing gives you a slice or a fragment of a text string. We define this text fragment using at least 2 values separated by a colon character. For example, my name 0:3 will give you all the characters starting from position 0, that is start of the string, until, but not including, character at index 3. It's just a property of these slices that they don't include the character with the end index. So in this case, it's ULD. You could omit the starting 0 value because it's default and write it my name :3. Or you could say that you are interested in letters from with indexes from 1 to 3 not included, and that should give you LD. We can also count from the back of the string, and we can omit the end index if we want to get all the characters until the end of the string. So this will give us a slice from 3 characters from the end of my name, which will be DIS. And you can combine these string slicing indexes. For example, in this case, we want letters from 3 letters from the end until the last letter of my name not included. All right. There's more information about slicing here, but you saw the main things there. If you try to access values with indexes that are not in the string, you will get an error message. String index out of range. One more thing that slicing syntax offers you is the third parameter, which is a step. So step 2 means print or give us back every other character. So it will give U, skip L, give us D character, skip I character, and give us S character at the end. So we could also write it if we want the whole string, but every other character, we could use the slice with colon 2. So that means give us the whole string from the beginning to the end, but use step 2, so skip every second character. we can play with, for example, we can play with food here, and our food variable will contain value potatoes, but if we want every other character, we use this colon to slice.
What could be an example of usage of such a
For text strings, probably this is just a demonstration that you can do this. Maybe not much practical value to skipping over every other character, but there can be, this slice syntax is also applicable to lists of values. We'll look at lists later on. And sometimes there can be cases when you need to get every other value. But it's not a key functionality of Python, let's put it that way.
I will add to this question. Let's say if I'm interested in like analyzing textual proximity, I want to see words are in one paragraph. Do I use slicing as a method or something different?
Words that are in one paragraph.
Yeah, that need to see just. Yeah.
So you want to separate the text into paragraphs, right?
Yeah, slicing or something else.
Well, you would need to split the text into paragraphs first, and then you would have a list of paragraphs. That's a bit later. And then you might, if you want to select certain paragraphs from this split text, then you can use slicing to say, I'm interested in this particular paragraph, something like that. But do ask again when we get to lists if there are more questions. One thing where slicing and the step parameter can be useful is if we need to reverse a string or if we need to reverse a list of some values. So we need it in the other direction, we can do that. One thing that you should keep in mind, we cannot change individual characters of a text string. We cannot say that the character with index 2 of the string containing value potato will be X. Python doesn't allow us to assign new values to fragments of text strings. But you can modify text strings by, for example, here will be a use of slicing. If we want to set letter with index 2 to some value, we could slice the beginning of the string until value with index 2, add this X, and then add the remainder of the string starting from index position 3. That way, instead of potatoes, we now have poxatoes. Well, I just wanted to show you that you can do that. And you already saw an example how you can combine strings together using the plus sign. And if I want to combine my name and surname together with a space, then I add space here. Now let's move to F strings, or formatted string literals as they are called, and you already saw them just now when you were doing your assignment before. So let's check that my name variable is still available to us. Let's define a new variable called favorite food. Let's say it's pizza. And now, as you saw before, we can construct a special F string, a string where there is letter F in front of the double quotes. And if you put that F in front of double quotes, then the my name and the food strings will get replaced by values of these variables. So my name is Uldis and my favorite food is pizza. So you see that my name and food has been replaced. If you forget to put F in front of this text string, then that's just a regular string, and it will print like this. And there is the old method, as we could call it, of combining strings that you also saw before using the plus sign. Okay, so different ways to combine strings together. Are there any questions? Okay, now for a quick detour. So ChatGPT. How many of you have already used ChatGPT? Raise your hands. Everyone. Or almost everyone. Okay, well, it is a useful tool. It is a powerful system for generating both human-like text and program code, and it lets us converse with ChatGPT so we can participate in conversation with it. The technology behind ChatGPT is large language models, and the basic principle of these models are that they predict new words or new tokens based on the existing text. So it generates these tokens, token by token, and if we build a large model that works this way, we suddenly get quite a smart service which can answer our questions. But it's no magic, and ChatGPT has its limitations. So you all should already have got a free ChatGPT account, or maybe someone already uses a paid ChatGPT account, which gives us a bit more power. But in any case, you can use ChatGPT throughout this course to help you with some tasks. And how it can help? It can help with error messages. For example, if you get some Python exception, you may just copy the message of this error to ChatGPT, and it will try to help. There was already one practical example here when you had, there was an error which I could not immediately diagnose what to do with it, but copying it into ChatGPT helped. So we figured out what was wrong. Then you can ask ChatGPT to explain some program code. For example, if you see some code in this or other Jupyter notebooks or Google Colab notebooks that I show, you can, and you don't understand what happens there, you can just ask ChatGPT to explain it. And, well, you could also use ChatGPT to write programs for you, but at the final assignment of this course, you are not allowed to just let ChatGPT to write the whole program for you. You can ask for assistance, but don't submit work that is ChatGPT's work alone. Now, let's talk about limitations of ChatGPT. So one thing is ChatGPT can hallucinate. It can sometimes be very convincing. It will invent you Python libraries that do not exist, or if it will invent some knowledge that does not exist in the real world. There were some lawyers in the United States who thought that ChatGPT works as a search engine and that it lets you find case law to use in lawsuits. And ChatGPT completely invented these existing lawsuits and their results, and it went on until the court figured out that these cases do not exist. So that can be really dangerous to use information from ChatGPT without verifying it. The same applies to program code. ChatGPT will give you some code, but you need to understand, so you need to have some basic knowledge of Python in this case. You need to understand what it does and how it works, just to make sure that there are no errors. The model also reflects the data that it was trained on. So if there are any biases in the data, then that will be true also for information that you get back from ChatGPT. And this maybe is not so important for program code, but there is some knowledge cutoff date. The knowledge that has been given to the model can be quite old because it takes time to train these models. So there is some knowledge cutoff, and if you ask a question to ChatGPT, it might not know the answer, unless this ChatGPT system also runs text search on the web. Some of these systems can do that and get more recent knowledge. One example of ChatGPT giving incorrect information is, for example, this, let's say, the male surgeon, who is also boy's father. Father exclaimed, I cannot operate on this boy. He's my son. And we will ask ChatGPT, how can this be? We actually have already, this text already says, I'm the boy's father. But if nothing has... okay, that's interesting. This is very different from what I got yesterday. So let's us actually see. So it has invented something new which could be also plausible. And let's try the other model. That's the answer I got yesterday. So you can see that it can generate different answers. And here it says the riddle, the answer to the riddle is that the surgeon is boy's mother, which appeared in its training data, but I have said male surgeon, boy's father, and still ChatGPT thinks that it's the boy's mother that is the explanation to this riddle, let's say. So it can be very convincing. Yes, that's so, it's boy's mother, but and it highlights our assumptions and whatnot, but that's not a correct answer. Okay, so for ChatGPT, to help with error messages, you can just paste the error message, the whole error message, in ChatGPT, and don't even give it any instructions. It will try to help you. If we want to understand some code, then probably we can ask ChatGPT to explain this code. For example, we could take this code here, explain, and hopefully it will give an explanation that it's an example of unformatted string and how this works. So that can be useful. If you need to understand something, yes, ChatGPT can do that. And well, like you already know, it can write programs for you. So write a program that asks for users' name and prints a cool greeting. Well, let's see if it will print a cool greeting. What's your name? Hello, welcome to the world of Python programming. You're awesome. Yay! Yes, you are. So, yes, ChatGPT can do that too. And it depends on the models that ChatGPT is using. But in more advanced model, you could actually execute this code. And ChatGPT can execute code. I don't know if it will work Here it will not do that. But in some other cases, you can get it to execute Python code. So that is ChatGPT, the detour to ChatGPT. But as Sergey correctly pointed out, that since ChatGPT can hallucinate and can give you also bad answers, we should not overlook the importance of existing search engines. So if you get an error message, you can also search on the web, and often you will end up at the site called Stack Overflow, which is a question and answer site for programming tasks. So we can ask Python f strings and might get I need ChatGPT to solve this for me. Motorcycles, whatever. Yes, and there are some questions with answers, how to do string formatting in Python and so on. How to display a number with leading zeros, for example. And there someone has asked the question, and there are answers that help you with these questions. If you have a question where you cannot get answer from the web or ChatGPT, you could also ask a new question on this Stack Overflow site. So Stack Overflow site is very good as well. Okay, that's about using ChatGPT, so you can use it from now on. Well, you already are all using it. Are there any questions or comments while we are on the topic of these large language models? You will have some other parts of the summer school where you will look at these models in more detail. Now let's look at string methods. So yes. And Gemini. Gemini is a Google large language model.
Because we have it integrated in Collab. So do you suggest to use it? Or?
I deliberately did not include Gemini in this notebook just to make it maybe simpler, but you are correct that you can also use Google Gemini, Google Gemini to write some code for you. So write code for getting user input and printing a greeting.
So, I mean, is worth it more than GPT or not?
Well, it's good enough for most tasks. I think ChatGPT is a bit better than the Google Gemini, but as you see, it's Gemini gave you the answer as well. So a good property is that it's already integrated in Google Colab. That's true. But it's up to you which one to use. So they are both in a similar ballpark, you could say. So here I quickly got some program code generated for me, and then we can execute this prompt. Or we can chat with Gemini. How do I filter a pandas data frame? And I'm sorry, but I can't help you with this. So see, it's not that sometimes it's maybe it should ask for additional questions, but sometimes it's not that helpful. And here's ChatGPT answer. It tries to answer us something. Okay, I don't know why Google would give an example where it cannot answer us, but well, it did. So.
I have a question about that. When would you advise to use Stack Overflow, and when, let's say, ChatGPT? Do you have some suggestions?
Well, now I probably would use ChatGPT as a first instance. So I would, if I have an error message, I might ask it to ChatGPT, just see if I can get a quick answer. So it saves you time. But if that answer that ChatGPT, I would look critically at the answers that ChatGPT gives me back. I will try the code that it gives. If that code doesn't work, then I would look on Stack Overflow. So just because it takes a bit more time sifting through Stack Overflow answers, it's lazy to use ChatGPT, shall we say? Let's say it that way. But sometimes lazy is good. Any other comments? Something from your experience with ChatGPT or Gemini? Sergey, maybe I will ask you as well, what's your opinion? Should we start with ChatGPT or with Stack Overflow?
I think ChatGPT, it gives an answer every time, but maybe it's not for our specific conditions. Because on Stack Overflow, there are different persons in the community who were stuck in some different small things with their, for example, they work on Apple and not on Windows. They work on some specific conditions, and these people, we also can ask them their opinion. And like, I think for me, of course, it's a lazy way to ask for ChatGPT, and I sometimes ask it. But also for me, it's interesting to cooperate with other real digital people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I sometimes turn to people in
Okay, cool. Thank you. And just to recap for online participants, that Sergey mentioned that it's worthwhile and valuable to cooperate with real people that are on Stack Overflow, and you can get more nuanced answers from Stack Overflow as well. So it's real people, real collaboration. That's a plus to Stack Overflow indeed. Your question kind of helps form the collective knowledge on Stack Overflow of some questions and answers to programming questions. Okay, cool, thanks. And now let's look at text strings again, but now we'll look at string methods. So methods let you do something with some Python objects. In this case, methods will let us do something with text strings. Let me delete this thing. So first, if you want to do something with a certain data type, say text strings, you could ask for help about this data type. And we do that by calling a function called help and giving a data type as its argument. And this help will return you quite a long list of things that you can do with strings, in this case. So you can capitalize a string that will make the first character uppercase and the rest lowercase, and so on. You can look for substring in a string. So you can ask it to find some value inside a string. Let's say we are interested in the method called string.capitalize, and then we can ask about help about this particular method. And now let's try to use a couple of these methods here. Let's define a new string called ABBA, and that's what it looks like. Now if we call the method capitalize, we can do that by typing the name of the variable, dot, and then the name of the string method or the string action that we want to perform. And we get ABBA capitalized. Another way to do something with the strings is upper method, which will return the string with all capital letters. You have a method for counting substrings in text. For example, let's count how many times letter B appears in some text, say ABBA. And since it has two capital letters B, it counted, and the result was 2. Again, we can ask for help about this particular method called string count. We can ask if a string ends with or starts with a certain character. or a certain string. So we asked if some string ends with letters BA, and it does indeed end with letters BA. Or if it starts with a certain string. So there are many of these methods that you can use to do something with text values. And well, you might ask, this ends with or starts with just gives us a truth value, a Boolean value. What good is that? But what we can do is we can use the value of this, calling this method, ends with, in flow control, which we'll look at a bit later. So we can write if some string ends with BA, then print text. This string ends with BA. If it does not end with BA, this print statement, print command will not get executed. We can ask Python to find the first occurrence of some text, in this case of capital letter B, and Python says it appears at index number 1. If we would ask Python to find text that is not in the string, we will get a reply -1. So there are many of these text methods. You can ask for help and look at the help messages. I will just execute some more cells. So my name contains string this, and it starts at position number 2. Now we can use slicing to select all the text starting from position number 2, and we see, yes, that's the substring. We can lowercase my name, uppercase it, or we can use a method called replace. We will replace, search my name for text string capital U and replace it with VA. So we should get the result Uldis. And yes, we did indeed get that. Now, this replace method did not change the original string. So the original string is still Uldis. If we want to change the text string, we can assign this result of executing replace to a variable called new name. But that still doesn't change the original my name variable. If we want to change the my name variable, the value of it, we use the same command, myname.replace, but in addition to that, we use assignment and we overwrite the value of the variable. So in this case, my name was Uldis. We executed this method called replace and assigned the result to the my name variable. So as a result, my name now says Uldis. So what else? We can convert text to title case. You already saw that we can capitalize it. But there are some more useful operations that you can do with a string. Let's build a sentence here and store that in a sentence variable. One thing we can check for is if a sentence contains some string or some word. And in this case, the sentence indeed contains text string fox. This search for text string is also case sensitive. So if we try fox with capital letter, it's false. It doesn't appear in the text. So you have to search for the text with same capital and lowercase letters. And one another very useful function or method that you will use is split. In this case, if you don't give any arguments to the split method, it will split text into tokens, into words, using any number of white spaces. So these spaces will be treated as one delimiter, and what we will get back is a list of tokens or a list of words. So a list is written in Python using square brackets. So it's square brackets, and what we get back is a list of the words that form this sentence. You can then join these words back together if you want to, and for that we use the method join, to which we give a separator character. For example, let's join the string using space as a delimiter. So we get back the same sentence, but with the extra white space removed. We can use other, and we can use longer separators. For example, here is a separator. Well, that's mostly for just kind of to show you that you can do it, a separator using multiple characters. Or in Python, you can use Unicode characters. So smileys are part of the Unicode encoding as well. So we could build a smiley string which consists of all our tokens separated by smileys, just because we can. But the main thing I wanted to show here is that you can split a sentence, split some text into tokens, into words. That is useful. And if necessary, you can join these words together again. So the result of the split operation is a list, and the result of joining a list is a string. And now let's talk about Python lists. So Python lists are ordered sequences of values. You can change individual members of a list. A list can have duplicates, and a list may contain another list. So we can define a list. Say, for example, we can use the range function, which will give us values from the starting number to the ending number, not including the ending number. Let's convert the result of this range function to a list and print the resulting list. And you see that this range function gave us numbers from 11 to 20. We can also define a list of strings. A list can have very different types of values, including other lists. But that's the first complex data structure that we look at here. So we can define a list of strings, let's say a shopping list. Similar as with strings, we can look at elements with certain index. So we can look for elements inside the string, and the string, an element with index 1 in this list is milk. We can look for the last element, and we can change values of elements too. So let's replace cookies with potatoes. Maybe not my favorite, but yeah, cookies were better. Still, now we have chocolate, milk, potatoes. So we have a list, and we can do things with a list. A list also lets us use the slice notation, similarly as we did for strings. So we can look at my list, which is the numbers. We can look at elements starting from position 4, index 4. We can look for everything but the last two items, so 19 and 20 are out. Or we can look for elements of a list starting from a starting index and ending with the ending index. So again, similar as with strings, we can ask for every other element, or we can ask for the string, the list in the reverse order. So slicing works both on text values Here we reversed my name, and on lists. So the same syntax, but working with different values. Are there any questions so far?
When you have the string functions, a line only does one thing, right? You cannot combine functions like capitalize and reverse.
You're asking if we can combine functions, these methods that we used here on strings? You could combine them. It would not make sense it would not make sense to combine title and capitalize because they would negate each other's result. But we could use, for example, title and split together. There can be different ways how we approach this. So this was the initial command. Let's use title case here. So that's the result of executing the title command. What you could do is you could assign the value to a variable, and then you could use a new command on that variable. Say title list equals title.split. Oh, well, it already suggests me. And let's print title list. That's one way how you can approach it. And here two things happened. You executed method title on the text string, and then you executed a split command on the result of this title command. That is a more clear way to do it, different commands on separate lines, but you could in fact combine title and split methods like this. And the result would be the same. So you can combine different methods together. So you can change them one after another, but often it's more clear to write code on separate lines and to assign these results to a variable. Then you can also add comments and so on. So that's just a more clear way to do it, in my opinion. Any more questions?
So when we join let's say the sentence, right? And we join, we put space. But what if we don't want the space?
What do we want to use instead?
Like you just want them in one.
You want one string without any spaces, then you do it like that. You use empty string and we join words, right? So here we combined together all the words without using spaces in between. So there is an empty string, you can use it sometimes. In this case, we just put all the words together, but it's not readable at all, is it? So you can do it. In this case, you probably don't want to do that. So slice notation. We've finished with slice notation, so let's look at common list methods. So lists also have different actions that we can do on these lists. We can append an element, we can find an index of an element, we can remove an element from the list, or we can sort the list if necessary. Let's look at our shopping list again. So that's our list, chocolate, milk, potatoes, and with the append method, we change the list. We add kefir, to the end of our shopping list. We can use method sort to sort this list alphabetically. And that is the result. Now, when sorting a list, we should keep in mind that Python treats capital letters and lowercase letters differently, or they, when sorting, capital letters come first, so all the capital letters, and then all the lowercase letters, so that you are not surprised at results of sorting. Okay, let's add a fork to our shopping list. And now we will redefine our shopping list by removing last 3 items. So we will ask in a slice notation for all elements starting from first until the third from the end. That way, our shopping list only contains 2 elements, chocolate and kefir, and we can remove chocolate. And that's our shopping list now. We can use the command in to check if kefir is in the shopping list. Kefir with capital letter is in the shopping list, but this operation is also case sensitive, and kefir with lowercase k is not in the shopping list. Milk is also not in shopping list. And here I just want to show you how this in command works. And in command also works on text strings. So for example, we can change that this is in my name, but AL is not inside my name. So we can check for substrings if they are a part of the text string, or in case if we are working with a list, we can look for list elements. If a list contains some element, then the result of this in operation will be true. Okay.
But if we would like that kefir with capital letter and lower letter would be found, what should we do?
If we want to find kefir regardless of capital or lowercase letters, then you would need, that's a valid use case. We might want to find words regardless of their case. In that case, we should do a little more work. We should then convert all the, sorry, I don't want to generate anything. Then we would use the method .lower to lowercase both the strings that we're looking for and yes, well, this will not work. And ChatGPT won't help much either in this case. So we need to convert all the elements of the list to lowercase, and the strings that we're searching for, we need to convert it to the lowercase as well.
But so if we think the problem a little bit wider, so we have, for example, large text with all kinds of kefirs.
Yeah.
Not only caps lock, but also Y maybe somewhere or something. So we have to find all the differences and make and like write all these differences to be changed to one thing.
If we want to search regardless of the case, then yes. Okay. You want to? No. In that case, we would need to, if we want to look find these elements regardless of the case, we would need to convert them also to the same, either lowercase or uppercase.
But if we also have not only cases, but also different spelling or errors in spelling.
Okay.
We need to find this kefir anyways. Then we have to know all the errors to change them, or is there any way we can ask not to take into account some errors in the wording?
Yeah, that's a
Spelling.
difficult task. If we have errors in spelling, then we should convert them. If we want to find them, we should convert them all to one spelling. But what we could do, then we probably would need to do kind of exploration of this text. For example, find all the names that start with kef, but maybe they have different endings, especially in Latvian. So we could then explore what kinds of words we have and then see if we need to replace any of these words. But there are also programs for stemming or lemmatizing text where we can convert, say, different variations of the word to the same stem or the same lemma. But that's probably a topic for later on. Yes, but in a simpler situation, we would need to have shopping list in lowercase and kefir in lowercase.
I just wanted to say, if you have a longer question, let's take a mic, because otherwise people don't hear us. And all this needs to reiterate the question every time.
Okay. Yes. There is a construction that Python construct that I could show you, but don't ask me to explain it right away. Maybe you can ask ChatGPT to explain it. This is how you could convert the shopping list to lowercase using a Python construct called list comprehension. So it will go through, item lower for item in shopping list. So it would go through all the items in the shopping list and convert them to lowercase. Well, in this case, it was just kefir. So that's how you can convert a list. Okay. Now a quick exercise for you. Let a user enter some text, you learned that already, and output the number of words in this text. And there is another optional task. Let the user enter two numbers, separated by space, and print out the sum of these numbers. So please execute the first task. If you have completed the first task, you can look at the second task as well. So we need to get user input. Count the number of words. Okay, and it's even helping me code, print the result. Okay, like that. That's your quick task. For this task, 5 minutes should be enough, or maybe even less. Let me know, or let us know if you have any questions. Okay, so if we will have questions, for longer questions, we'll use the mic. So we already learned how to get user input. So I will write that. Okay, so please complete this task, and then it's the end of this part of the workshop, and we can all go and eat some lunch. But let me know if you need any assistance. You can ask ChatGPT though as well. So the first part is getting user input. So input function, we give it some prompt and we get the result as text. Next, you will need to split that text into words. So you split the text and you get the length of this list. Okay, so before we go for lunch, I will show you, let us know if you have any questions. I will show you how to do this task. If you ask ChatGPT, the answer might be too complex using a function which we don't want yet. So text, let's say I will use variable words, and see, Gemini in this case is already prompting me what I want. So you can use Gemini to be lazy a bit, but what we need is we need to split the text into words using whitespace. So basically using split method. We split text into words. And then, to get the length of the list, we use function called len. And that will give us the number of words. And then we can print the result. You entered number of words. I will use f-string instead, just because it's a bit nicer to do that, like this. And that should give us the length of the text. And the result is you entered 4 words. So that's about it for solving this task. Now, some of you may already have started task number 2, where we let a user enter 2 numbers. I will look at how to solve that as well. First, let's add a comment telling what we want to do. And in this case, numbers equals input enter 2 numbers separated by a space. Okay, we can do that. And we will split the result into a list. And we get back a list of text values 1 and 2. Now this is a bit more complex task. Because we need to convert text strings to numbers. So number A would be integer value of the number at position 0. B would be int value integer value of number at position 1, and then we can add these numbers together and print the result, which is 3. So that's the solution of both tasks. And well, I hope you completed these tasks. If not, ask for help and let's make a break.